飛騨高山で木彫刻を営んでおります2代小坂綾之です。この度は皆様のお力添えでこのように素晴らしい作品発表の場をいただきましたことに感謝いたしております。飛騨高山の木彫り文化一一刀彫りを受け継ぐものとしまして、古くから何代にもわたり受け継がれてきました伝統の技と心を受け継ぎながら、新しいことへの挑戦を心がけて作品制作をしております。新たな挑戦をしても打ち砕かれることが多く、様々な模索を繰り返す日々ではございますが、少しずつでも進化をして前に進めることを大切にしたいと思っております。今回紹介させていただきました作品を見ていただき、皆様の心に何かしら良いものが残れば幸いに思います。ありがとうございます。
6代渋草龍蔵です。数年前、50周年の時にデンバーで私の作品をデンバーへ寄贈させていただきまして、ありがとうございました。皆さんのご支援を賜りまして、重ねて御礼申し上げます。私は250年余りの左桜に見せられまして、毎年写生にその桜に会いに行っております。会うたび感動を受け、その思いを作品に表現したいと日頃努力しております。ご覧いただけたら幸いに通じます。
こんにちは、福寿式典の福寿亮太です。この度はせっかくアメリカで展示会をする機会をいただいたんですが、新型コロナウイルス感染拡大の影響によりまして、中止せざるを得なかったこと、大変残念に思っております。私どもの扱う飛騨春景塗は、熟練した職人が木を曲げて作ったり、組み立てたりくり抜いて作ったものに、塗る職人が、木目をきれいに浮き立たせるように、漆を塗り重ねていきます。本来でしたら手に取って見ていただくと一番よくわかるんですけど、このような状況ですので残念に思います。一刻も早く、世界の人々が自由に行き来し、そして飛騨春景塗を手に取ってもらって、木のぬくもりや柔らかさ、そして、琥珀色に輝く、きれいな木目を、感じ取っていただきたいと思います。そんな日が一日も早く訪れるようお祈りしております。どうもありがとうございます。
My name is Courtney Ozaki, and I am a taiko practitioner and a artistic creative producer. And I'm joined here today by three of our panelists in Denver, Colorado, which is located on the traditional lands of the indigenous Ute, Arapaho, and Cheyenne people. I am a third and fourth generation Japanese American and the founder of the Japanese Arts Network, which is an organization that lifts up, connects, and develops platforms for Japanese artists in America. And we aim to create opportunities that recognize how the values of artists, stakeholders, communities, and audiences intersect and can inspire empathy and build a more sustainable ecosystem. I'm very excited to be joined by a wonderful panel of Japanese artists, curators, and creatives located in both Denver, Colorado, in the United States, and in the Hida region of Gifu Prefecture in Takayama, Japan. We had originally planned to share this art exhibition with the Denver community in person at the Source, which is where we are today, a multi-purpose food and retail market. However, unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we decided it was not safe or responsible to open the exhibition to the public. So instead, we are having this conversation to talk about the importance of preserving traditions and legacy, developing artistic exchange between Japan and the United States, and cultivating and supporting interest in Japanese arts and culture in America. And we will share this video once this presentation is edited with the Denver community and beyond, hopefully Takayama as well. And we will also create a digital art exhibit online to share the Takayama artists' work, which will connect to the Japanese Arts Network's website. And I apologize for the background noise. The Source is actually still open right now, so there are people outside, but hopefully it won't be too distracting. So the Japanese Arts Network would like to thank the City of Takayama for the opportunity to be able to share this unique collection of remarkable craft, Takumi, the arts and crafts of Hida Takayama, in honor of 2020 being the 60th anniversary of the Denver Takayama Sister City relationship, and to support the Japanese Arts Network's mission to lift up Japanese art in America. And to share a little bit about Takayama with our panelists from Colorado, Takayama is the largest city in the mountainous Hida region of Gifu Prefecture, located in central Japan. It is surrounded by dense forests, and Hida and Takayama in particular have long been a source of top-grade timber and highly skilled carpenters who came to be known as Hida no Takumi, the master craftsman of Hida. In the early 8th century, the Hida no Takumi name achieved prominence through a directive of the imperial government implemented, under which the Hida region provided woodworkers to the imperial capital in place of taxation. So over the next 600 years, as part of the Hida no Takumi system, 40,000 to 50,000 carpenters and artisans were sent to the ancient capital, presently known as Nara, to build now famous shrines and temples. Hida's craftsmen started as workers and stepped into supervisor roles at the many construction sites at Nara, and their hands and skills shaped many of Japan's most ancient wooden structures. For 1,300 years, even after the system ended, these craftsmen and techniques remained in the town and region, and it's still renowned for its takumi. There are several national treasure crafts from the region. Several is quite a few, actually, total of 235 crafts as of November 2019. Now I would love to welcome today's guests. I'm honored to welcome you. First we have Shibukusan Ryuhei Tora from Shibukusa Ryuzo Pottery. And
Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. Next we have Koji Kakishita, who's the CEO of Kakishita Lighting.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. We have Norihito Yoshimoto, Kirie artist.
こんにちは、吉本です。今日はよろしくお願いします。
Hello, this is Yoshimoto. I look forward to speaking with you today.
We have Ranke Otsuka, who's a retired curator of Asian art for the Denver Art Museum.
Sure.
Hi, Ron. Thanks for joining us. Next, we have Casey Kawaguchi, and he's a Japanese-American spray paint artist.
Hello, nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Casey. And then we have Gil Asakawa, who's the chair of the Denver Takayama Sister Cities in Denver.
Hi, konnichiwa. I am looking forward to seeing those of you in Takayama in person sometime in the future, but we are building such great relationships between Denver and Takayama, even over the internet. So thank you very much for doing this. And thank you to Courtney and Tim for presenting this artwork from Takayama for us.
And I would love to introduce also Shiori Okazaki, who's our translator from Shiori Communications.
ありがとうございます。Thank you.
And I would also like to thank Tim Higashide, who is actually on the camera, which will be sharing the artwork with you today as we walk through the exhibit. And also who is behind the scenes is Matthew Ryan Durgan, who is helping to do all of the tech spotlighting and video sharing today. And he says hello everyone in the chat. Well, thank you everybody so much for joining us. I would like to start by introducing Shibuku-san and Tora-san from Shibukusa Ryuzo Pottery. So I will read your bio or your biography, and while I'm reading it, Tim will walk through the exhibit that we've set up of your artwork here. The Shibukusa Ryuzo kiln, now in its 7th generation, is one of the oldest potteries in Gida, and has continued to seek new and modern Shibukusa yaki designs while preserving the tradition. The 6th generation Ryuzo Tora started pottery from a young age and formally entered an apprenticeship with his father, Shibukusa Ryuzo IV, at 20 years old. He received his master's name, Shibukusa Ryuzo VI, in 1981. His work is renowned for its traditional style, elaborate, detailed, and distinctive colored cherry blossom paintings, and red-dyed porcelain with classic Shibukusa yaki texture. Today, the 6th and 7th generations work together. The second son of Shibukusa Ryuzo VI, Tetsuhito Tora, now Shibukusa Ryuzo VII, studied at Kanazawa College of Art, and upon graduation became a disciple of his father. In 2014, he debuted as a potter, taking inspiration from contemporary design. The following year, he launched the brand 4293, read Shibukusa, relating to the phonetic pronunciation of the numbers in Japanese, and is currently working as the art director for the kiln, aiming to create a new style of Shibukusa yaki while redefining the value of traditional crafts in a contemporary lifestyle. He has collaborated with artists from a variety of fields, such as apparel design and music. I see the Nike shoes there, which are incredible. Sorry, I got distracted. Presenting his work in Milan and across the globe. Each successive generation continues to develop their own style of Shibukusa yaki at the Shibukusa Ryuzo kiln. So thank you, Tim, for showing us the artwork and giving us that first-person look. My first question is for Shibuksa-san and Toda-san. If you could please tell us about your artwork and creative practice, and if you could also please touch on the importance of carrying on the legacy of Japanese traditions, while the work also evolves through your own unique artistic voice.
はい。まず、この機会をいただいて、貴重な機会をいただいて。
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm really honored to be able to speak with you today. And I think your question is really wonderful, and it's such a big question that I'm wondering if I need to answer by basically touching upon many aspects of my own life.
考えていくために、すみません、すごく緊張してて、まず日本における伝統工芸のイメージっていうのが、大半のイメージっていうのが、
So I apologize because I'm a little bit nervous, but what I wanted to mention is that when you think of traditional crafts in Japan, you might think that each generation will continue the style of the previous generation, but actually with our pottery, it's different. We actually have a rule where each generation must have their own style that's different from the previous one. So what's interesting about the Shibuksa-ware style is that we start by copying our master style, and then after following further research and knowing ourselves, then we add our own style and try to elevate the artwork as a whole. But what's interesting though is that when I first became the apprentice of the sixth generation Shibuksa Ryuzo, my master, he told me that I need to get rid of my own individuality in the beginning and then totally copy his style.
6代目のコピーになるように言われました。はい。ちょっともう普段僕は話さないので、すごくこういう場がすごく初めてで、めちゃくちゃ緊張してます。
I'm actually very nervous because I'm not used to speaking in public.
すみません。ちょっと昨日、夕べも自分の考えをまとめてて、結局、アメリカンジョークを検索してました、夜中にね。
And last night I was trying to think of what to say, and I was looking up American jokes on the internet.
That's wonderful.
素晴らしいですね。ありがとうございます。
なので、ごめんなさい。
So I trained for 15 years under my father, my master, basically as an apprentice, trying to become his clone and really erasing all individuality.
クローンになるように、自分の個性を消して修行してきました。それは例えるなら
So as an analogy, it was kind of like I installed these expressions and tools or weapons, so to speak. But at the same time, once I tried to express my own individuality, I felt that those became obstacles.
僕が何かを表現しようとしたときに大きな壁に思えてしまうことでした。なので、自分の殻を壊すために。
So in order to break my own shell, that's why I was trying to collaborate with as many artists as possible and learn new sensitivities, different kinds of sensitivities and aesthetics from all these people, and then really break my own shell of what it means to have a traditional craft. So I feel that I actually don't really have my own sense. It's kind of like a collage of many different senses, many things that I like.
なので作品を作るにあたってすごく
So whenever I create my own artwork, I really try to think a lot. But I feel that when it comes down to it, my inspiration comes from basically like a small child within me. And what that little boy wants to create, the current me, the adult me, tries to express.
そうですね。取り留めもない話でごめんなさい。
So whenever I create artwork that the previous generations did not, I think what's important is to try to combine the tradition with contemporary senses and contemporary aesthetics. And so I feel that that's what I'm trying to pursue whenever I create my own art.
そこに融合させるのが大事だと思っています。それが、伝統を継承しながらも自分が、現代で、表現する意味だと思っています。
Thank you so much. It's so beautiful.
どうもありがとうございます。
すみません。ありがとうございます。
I think you're a very, very eloquent speaker.
Yes, I agree. You're very profound.
Thank you.
私もそう思います。大変深いお話を伺えたと思います。
Thank you so much.
I wonder if Ron or Casey, you have anything you'd like to comment on that being so intimately connected to art and legacy, I guess, carrying on traditions through modern interpretation.
Well, I think that continuation of traditions can be very fragile. Traditions could have been transmitted from teacher to apprentice to student for generations and for hundreds of years, but all it would take would be one generation and many of those skills would be lost. So the preservation of traditions is so critical, and I think Japan, of any country or culture in the world, has focused on the preservation of these skills. At the national level, there are designations of people that have these skills, Juyomuke Bunkazai. And in terms of Takayama City and Mizu Prefecture, I think it's important that these traditions are recognized as being important for many generations to come to be able to endure the transition of contemporary life. There are categories that include Munsoku, or so that that I think also fits in with some of the skills and traditions of Takayama too. It's not only the human transfer of skills from either the performing arts or visual arts that's critical. It's also the preservation of the environment. Many of these skills cannot be manifested without trees and for woodworking, or trees for wood firing kilns, for lacquer trees for shunkenuri. And so it's not only important that the ability to traditions be preserved in terms of the skills themselves, but also the network of the environmental ecology that's necessary to preserve those skills. And it's been discussed that these traditions don't have to be frozen in time. They don't have to become fossils. They are living traditions, and those traditions have to recognize that the 21st century is maybe very different from the time some of these traditions began. There might have been prohibitions against women using the pottery wheel for making ceramics. And we have to think of the cultural significance of former traditions and what relevance they have to our modern mind. And I think we've seen beautifully demonstrated that in one artist you can see a wide range of traditions and how they're being manifested. Some are made for traditional things like tea ceremony, or maybe flower arranging, containers for flower arranging, but also things that aren't connected to any of those practices at all. And I think in terms of ceramics, some of these issues have been considered for over 50 years. I mean, you have groups like Sodeisha that were dealing with some of the questions of tradition and how those traditions can be maintained, but also leaving, I think, room for exploration of avant-garde movements and new ways of expressing art through those time-honored traditions. So I think new traditions are developing in areas like using new technology, computers, 3D printing, even spray paint. I think all these art forms and the artists that are exploring these areas are developing their own traditions for the next generation to be able to. So it's important that artists in Takayama and around the world, respect the past, but also realize that there is a call for innovation and change for the future of those traditions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ron. That's a good segue, I think, to Casey. You wanted to mention something as well, and Ron actually just honored your art form. So maybe if you want to speak to that.
I feel like I have a lot of what we are talking about and the representation and preservation of traditions, sort of meeting new traditions, and like my medium of spray painting, I have found just naturally, but is a lot of what goes into my work and what is behind it is a lot of this hits very close to home with the focus of a lot of my work. So I find this conversation very intriguing. And I agree very much with Toro-san that I feel the same of like it's taken my whole life of practice, my different mediums from pencil and paper to acrylic and brush and then to spray painting, that is a lifetime of inspirations and things that heavily inspired me, artwork of my grandma's and different parts of my Japanese roots that have come out naturally stronger and stronger in my work as I've gotten older. So I relate very much of feeling like it's the child me that is finally getting to create what I've always wanted since I was a kid.
So maybe the two of you can collaborate one day.
ぜひよろしければお二人がコラボしていければいいんじゃないかなというふうに感じます。いつか。
ぜひぜひ、僕、ケイシーさんの作品も見させていただいて、すごくかっこよかったので、ぜひぜひ何かの形でコラボできたらいいですね。嬉しいです。僕、壁画、なんだっけ、ウォールペイントが大好きで、よくインスタとかでもチェックしてるので、すごく興味があります。
Yes, please. I think that's a wonderful idea. I've actually checked out Casey's artwork online, and I think they are so beautiful and so cool. So I would love to collaborate. And I've actually always loved murals, and I've often checked them out on Instagram, for example. So I would love that opportunity.
Fantastic.
I love your work as well. So much respect for what you do.
私もです。渋草さんの作品を拝見して素晴らしいと思いました。ぜひご一緒できれば嬉しいと思います。
ありがとうございます。僕の作品に今度書いてください。
Thank you very much. I would love it if you can please draw one of my artwork. I think that would be really lovely.
Absolutely, I would love that very much.
ぜひそんな機会をいただけたら嬉しいです。ありがとうございます。
Thank you. Thank you to Shibuksa-san and Casey and Ron for those insights. And Gil also has been chiming in on the chat, sharing some insights as well. He says Western art school education is very much the same. First year fine art students have to copy master drawings and paintings to learn from them, and eventually they can bring their own sensibilities, kankaku, to their art.
渋草さん、ケイシーさん、ロンさん、ありがとうございます。そしてチャットでもギルさんが今一言おっしゃってるので、ここで読み上げたいと思います。今おっしゃったようなことが、まさにその西洋の美術を勉強する大学とかでも同じような状況で、まず最初はいわゆる巨匠の人たちの絵をひたすら真似していくこと、から始まって、そこから自分の感覚、センシティビティを磨いていくのだということです。
So thank you everybody for that. This is a wonderful dialogue, and I'm so happy that we're connecting today. And hopefully this will be a long-lasting connection.
ありがとうございます。皆さん、本当にこういった対話がまさに実現したかったことですし、これが長期的な人間関係につながるといいなと思っています。
At this point, I had a question for Ron, but I actually think he answered it already. So I was going to ask you about the importance of continuing and preserving traditions and carrying on the legacy, but that's actually what you just spoke to. Is there anything else you would like to add to that, though?
実はここでロンさんにご質問しようと思ってたんですけれども、まさに今お話しいただいたような伝統をどのように継承していき、そしてこの新しい感覚とどのようにバランスしていくのかということだったんですけど、何かコメントを追加されたいっていうのはありますか？
Most of my comments were about the visual arts because I was involved with the Denver Art Museum. But I think equally important are the performing arts, music, dance, theater. And I think in those traditions too, it is critical that the past be honored, but also there are, I think things that have been happening in Japan that are very exciting in terms of stage performances and performances out in the field, out in the cityscape. And so I think there are no reasons to limit what is accomplished through a sister city friendship between Takayama and Denver. It can cover such a wide range of activities. I think we're focusing on visual arts this evening, but I think we should always be open to all cultural kind of practices.
先ほど私が申し上げたコメントというのは主に美術の話で、私自身デンバー美術館にいたものですから、しかしその芸術というのもかなり注目すべき分野だと思ってまして、例えば音楽ですとか舞台ですね、日本においては、特にその、伝統的なその舞台をどのようにそのモダン化していくのかというので、エキサイティングな議論が続いていると思うんですけれども、まさにそのような形でこの高山とデンバーの関係においても、今はその、主に美術の話をしていますけれども、将来的には芸術にも向きを置いて活動ができたら素晴らしいんじゃないかと思います。
Absolutely. Thank you, Ron, for that insight. As a taiko player, I appreciate that sentiment. So thank you. So I guess at this time, we would love to have Tim, if he's... Tim, are you around? Oh, there you are. Okay. At this time, we would love to spotlight Koji Kakishita from Kakishita Lighting. And I'd love to introduce Kakishita Woody Works Company Limited. It is a family-run company that has created wooden lighting products for half a century in Hida, Takayama. Its celebrated Moade line is Japan's first wooden lighting brand. The work of these master craftsmen of the Hida region carries tradition into the present, conveying comfort through the gentle beauty of light and the warmth of natural wood. And I can definitely vouch for that because I am standing surrounded by these beautiful lights. At the core of the company's monozukuri, or holistic start-to-finish manufacturing perspective, is light itself. But it is the synergy of the materials and the entire design that allows the product to shine. Takishita Woody Works aspires to create a new lighting style in tune with the traditional hira skills that have been honed in harmony with the forest. So Kakishita-san, could you please tell us about your artwork and creative practice and talk about some of the collaborations you've done with artists outside of Japan? What were the challenges and fun or surprising experiences in these collaborations?
Thank you very much. I'm Koji Kakishita from Kakishita Woodworks, and I'd first like to explain about Moare. Moare was founded in 2007 as something that combines the warmth of wood and the natural warmth of light. And it's the first brand in Japan that specifically is about wooden lighting.
And
to explain why I founded this brand is, in the year 2000, I went to France to visit an exhibit, and someone asked me, is Isamu Noguchi the only artist who creates lighting in Japan, or Japanese-American artist? So Isamu Noguchi, as you may know, is a Japanese-American artist, and one of his famous works is a lantern lighting, or chochin lighting. And so that really spurred me to try to make a different sort of lighting that's from Japan. And so I first thought it's really wonderful that Isamu Noguchi was able to create a type of lighting that has been beloved for the last 50 to 60 years. And at the same time, I felt that there should be another brand that's able to really show Japanese aesthetics to people overseas. So the foundation of Moare is that we want to create lighting that will continue to be used, beloved and created 50 to 100 or more years from now. And in the year 2007, Gifu Prefecture kindly introduced to us a Finnish designer, someone from Finland, and that became the beginning of our collaboration with foreign designers. Of course, we did have a language barrier, but other than that, we had no difficulties collaborating in terms of design. And in the development process, we did have a lot of fun and surprising memories, but the fun part was that despite the language barrier, we were able to communicate with each other and agree on a design. What was surprising is that the designer would tell us, why don't you make it 1 centimeter taller or 5 millimeters smaller? And we felt that those were really small increments, but actually when we did make the design, it really vastly improved. So that was surprising. And it's been more than 10 years since 2007, but we still think it's a really beautiful design even now. So it's called Hopless, and it's right behind me. And the designer helped us through the entire process until the product reaches our customers' hands, including the package design. So that was really fascinating. And Finnish design apparently has a lot of design where the customer can create their own lamp based on parts. And so they taught us how to do that as well. And that was really surprising too. So this is a type of lighting that I really love. It's kind of like my own child. So I really hope to continue to send him overseas so that it continues to be beloved by other customers.
通りにちょっと作ってみたら、すごくフォルムが良くなったりとかいう体験をしながらものづくりができたのがすごく面白かったですね。で、2007年でもう10年以上経ってるんですけど、10年以上作ってても、いつ見ても綺麗なデザインだなという思うのがこの4プラスですね。で、あとその時に教えてもらったのが、パッケージのデザインとかも全部、販売までの形を全部すべて作り続けたことで、このようなパッケージもデザインとかもちょっとやったりとか、こう持って帰ったりとか。で、当時フィンランドは組み立て式のものが多いので、ノックダウンで製品化しちゃうという考えもすごく驚いた一つですね。なので、我が子のように可愛い照明なので、これからもどんどんたくさん世の中、世界に発信していきたいなというふうに思っています。はい。以上です。
That's it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. ありがとうございます。 I find this lighting is so calming, so relaxing, and centering.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
It's also very very timeless, and it's practical, and it makes sense that it's still today, even though it was built in 2007, it makes sense that it's still today is a good model that people would enjoy having in their homes.
ありがとうございます。Thank you.
Can you speak to sort of the aesthetics, the Japanese aesthetics that resonate with you in your artwork? So I know in the description it talks about being in harmony with the forest. So in your design, how is that conveyed?
森との調和ですね。基本的に
Yes, I understand your question. And what I want to mention is that when we use wood, we have to be mindful of the fact that wood is a limited resource. So we need to be really careful and mindful about how we use it.
プラスあと職人たち
And
は
when artisans repeat simple processes over and over again, their skills tend to decline over time. So we try to continue to challenge them. For example, we have a type called the tipo, and it's a 12-sided shape. And whenever we do that, because they're 12 sides, it's quite challenging to have the exact same length, but we ask them to do that. So by doing that, we continue to challenge them so that their skills do not deteriorate over time.
であと
And it's not just the woodwork, but the actual lighting itself. We try to be mindful of the form of what it looks like whenever someone turns on or off the light. So if we use Japanese indigenous wood, like Japanese cypress or Japanese pine, automatically the lights will look very, very Japanese, traditionally Japanese. And it might not be appropriate for a modern style of living. So we try to be mindful of how to make it more modern and really appropriate for the style of living that people live now. And so really it's a combination of how mindful we are in order to use wood, but at the same time have lighting that's practical for a modern lifestyle. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Arigatou gozaimasu. That's very much what I personally, the Japanese Arts Network, what I would love to share with Americans here in the United States is that that mindfulness and the intentionality of the artwork and of the craft and every element that goes into creating one of these pieces of art.
ありがとうございます。Thank you.
So I wonder if Casey, you can speak a little bit to your you have a lot of intentionality in the artwork that you create, and often you incorporate a lot of mindfulness similarly to this in the design, in the story of your artwork, in the brushstrokes. Maybe you can speak a little bit to that. In the same way, I feel like the same principles apply to your artwork, even though the medium is so different. That was what was coming to mind for me, was all the conversations we've had about the intentionality and the mindfulness behind your work.
I feel like my practice, the mindfulness comes into the medium of choice for me for the majority of my work, which is spray paint, that there's something very chaotic and uncontrollable about the medium itself. And so it requires a certain level of focus. And for me, that focus combined with the physicality of the craft is almost like a meditation, that it is a part of my practice. And I think through that constant meditation with my art form and with my craft, that visually um, it becomes a practice in self-discovery and self-creation at the same time. And so that's where a lot of my early inspirations and family influence has come out more and more in that self-discovery.
Thank you so much. Kakishita-san, do you find the practice of creating your lighting, whether it's the design or the actual craft of building, do you find that to be a meditative experience also?
そうですね、照明器具を作ってる中では、
Yes, because it's lighting, there's a difference between what it looks like during the day and during the night. So we basically shape it usually during the day, so we look at it alone. And then during the night, we turn on the light and see what it looks like. And I feel that that process is close to mindfulness and meditation.
Yeah. I want to purchase one of these because I love the way that it feels, and I love the way that it looks on the Zoom as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to actually change the order a little bit because I know Yoshimoto-san has been waiting patiently. So I'd love to speak about his work. Norihiko Yoshimoto moved to the Hira Takayama area at the age of 15. He taught himself the traditional art of paper cutting and is the pioneer of a style of kirie called wa modern, which means traditional Japanese taste mixed with a modern Western style. He has published numerous works encompassing the theme of Hira Takayama's landscape and seasonal symbols, and he has received acclaim domestically and internationally with exhibitions in Denver, New York, Paris, Cologne, and Singapore, all over the world, as well as through studio visits by foreign collectors. The Japanese art of paper cutting, kirigami, or cut paper, was established around the 8th century as commercial handmade paper became increasingly available. During this period, artisans were cutting a variety of shapes, including animals, letters, and landscapes, often for use in Shinto rituals. In the Hira region, kazarigami, which translates as decoration paper, is a unique paper art tradition that has been proudly carried on as part of the seasonal Takayama festivals. Over time, paper cutting artisans have informed the development of other traditional Japanese crafts, such as dyed and woven fabrics that feature patterns created through a paper cut inspired approach. After World War II, many Japanese paper cutting artists were influenced by Western style paintings. In an effort to distinguish these graphic paper works of art from more traditional Japanese paper crafts such as kirigami, the cultural community began to use the term kirie, or cut paper picture. So Yoshimoto-san, could you please tell us about your artwork and creative practice, and why is it significant to you to have your artwork shared in the United States? And also sharing about Takayama and your art that originates there with the rest of the world.
はい。私は切り絵を24歳の時から始めまして。
So I started cutting kirie when I was 24 years old, and by the time I was 25, I was already selling my artwork in this gallery that I'm at. So it's been 48 years, and I'm now 72 years old. So I think I am in the same age range as many of your fathers. So I feel like I'm a little out of place in terms of generation, but I still look forward to talking with you today.
また考えも違うかもしれませんが、よろしくお願いします。
So my style was pretty much set when I was about 50 years old. And that's when people start to say that it's really pretty and they love the modern style. So as was mentioned earlier, I started to exhibit in department stores around Tokyo, Yokohama, Nagoya, Osaka, and was also able to have exhibits that were just for me. So that was a really wonderful opportunity. And about 5 years ago, I decided to limit sales only to this gallery that I'm currently in Takayama. And my motifs are traditional Japanese patterns, for example, family crests, as well as seasonal sceneries, seasonal celebrations, as well as things that we see in our daily lives, and then combine those with sophisticated Japanese design. And Japanese kirie, as was explained earlier, can trace its history back to around the year 650 or 700. And when the paper making techniques came from the Korean peninsula, that's when paper cutting techniques developed soon after through kirigami or kazarigami, for example. And then about 50 years ago, these techniques started to change a little bit in the sense that some people start to focus on what is now called kirie. So e in the kirie, or in the word of kirie, means painting. So they wanted to look at kirie as an artwork as opposed to kirigami as a technical craft. And so what I work on is kirie, and I usually use very common materials as the paper. And for example, in Western art, Henri Matisse might be well known for cutting paper, but he usually used scissors. In Japan, the kirie is usually made through an exactor knife, so that the tool is a little bit different. And in both Japan and the Western world, usually when we cut paper, it's black paper. But rather, I wanted to use white paper that connects more with traditional Japanese art and also has like a soft touch when you look at it. And also in terms of techniques, I try to pay homage to Japanese traditional paintings of the past.
上手に出るようには工夫はしているつもりです。私の
And I very much appreciate how my own kirie, which I try to convey like a soft touch and also is connected to traditional Japanese art, has been purchased and viewed by a lot of people in Japan and also around the world. Takayama is very much a tourist city that usually welcomes hundreds of thousands of foreigners. So I have very much appreciated this opportunity to be visited and appreciated by many people around the world. And to explain a little bit about Takayama as a city, so within Japan, we have Eastern cultural traditions and Western cultural traditions. But Takayama is very much a combination of both, so it's unique in that sense. And also, many cities in Japan were traditionally created by the nobility there or samurai lords who lived there. But for Takayama, it actually is because of the Edo government. So the Edo period started around 1600, and 70 to 80 years after that, Edo started to directly rule over Takayama. So it's quite a unique culture, and the city residents were able to create their own traditions from there, and so Takayama really has a really interesting aspect where the daily life is very much part of the culture.
高山は、1868年に明治維新
And in 1868, that's when the Meiji era began. And in Takayama also, there that's when the city residents came together and made the unique culture of the city even more sophisticated by preserving these traditional festivals, as well as the feel of the old town, and try to preserve as well the traditions of master carpenters, etc. So it's really thanks to that effort that Takayama still has a soft and gentle feel throughout the city. And thanks to the tourism boom that was about 50 years ago, Takayama is a city that, despite being small, has been very successful thanks to tourists. And maybe at the time, the local residents weren't really thinking about it, but it turns out that uniqueness, the individuality of Takayama, is something that really appeals to everyone throughout the world. And so this culture that really is a combination of the daily life of the residents of the city, as well as the wonderful history of master craftsmen, the Hidano Takumi. I think that's something that Takayama, the city of Takayama, should continue to communicate and disseminate to people around the world. And Takayama is well known, for example, for things like furniture. And we have artists who are part of the Hidano Takumi exhibit, like the Japanese lacquer, the Shinkei Nuri, as well as the Itobori woodwork, and of course Toda-san, who is part of this talk. And so we have traditional arts like that, arts and crafts like that, but we also have the new crafts that began about 20 years ago. So Takayama has very much become a destination for young craftsmen who want to hone their skills, and it's also a tourist destination. So that's something that we can continue to disseminate to people around the world. And I strongly feel that I want the arts and crafts of Takayama to continue to be world-class and something that we can continue to show to the world, proudly show to the world. Because through that process, it'll really give back to the city of Takayama by attracting visitors to the city, tourists as well. And the way we can show the wonderful charms of Takayama is by creating artwork that will continue to be used, decorated, and displayed in people's homes and other places. So I have various artist colleagues who work with the Shinkei Nuri lacquerware and other things. And from about 10 years ago, we have been discussing with the mayor of Takayama. So we hold regular meetings with them on how to elevate the attraction of Takayama as a city. And so I want to continue to show the wonderful crafts of the young craftsmen here, as well as the traditional crafts of Japan that are made in the city of Takayama to people around the world. And as part of that, I'm very honored that about 7 years ago, my exhibit was held in a library in Denver for about 2 months. And the way I think about my art, or about these concepts that I just talked about earlier, is that things that are not world class will no longer be appreciated in Japan either. So I think it's very important, and I am very thankful that the people of Denver are paying attention to the artwork of Takayama, because it's a really important part of our it's going into the next step of really strengthening our relationship.
最後になりますね。このデンバーでの展示会の前に。
And lastly, before this exhibit in Denver that was planned, we were also planning to exhibit in Los Angeles' Japan House, which is run by the government of Japan. We couldn't do that in person either. At the same time, Japan House kindly put up my artwork on their own Instagram, and that became a wonderful way to connect with artists worldwide. And I do think that there are many, many ways to connect with the world, but we really need to start with Denver, with whom we have a wonderful relationship, and hopefully that in turn will bring many more tourists to the city of Takayama.
Yeah, I absolutely. Arigatou gozaimasu. I really believe that this is the start of a very important relationship between artists in Takayama and artists and patrons and practitioners in Denver. I would love to see this be annual, sharing of artwork from Takayama craftsmen and artists based in Denver. And hopefully, as Gil was talking about, artists can come visit in Takayama and your studios as well. And you can come visit their studios here. And hopefully we can also share exhibit work and share the artwork more broadly on a yearly basis so that even more people in Denver will be able to experience your artwork in person. I'm very excited though to share this video with the Denver community and broader community, as you mentioned, the Instagram. Very excited to be able to share your perspectives and your valuable insight about your craft and your artwork, so that more people are able to connect more strongly to the meaning behind the artwork and the history that you're carrying on for generation to generation. And I'm very excited and interested in bringing a delegation of artists from Colorado or from Denver to Takayama, so that you can collaborate or connect and have conversation in person, and so they can learn from this really inspiring city and this culture that is very unique, I feel, to have so many different traditions and crafts, both modern and quite old and historic. And I wonder, Gil, if you might want to speak to that a little bit more, and maybe also just let everybody know who doesn't know sort of what your role is with Takayama, and how you might like to see artists to visit Takayama and have that opportunity to do so, and vice versa.
Sure. It would be wonderful to find a way to have a delegation of artists from Denver visit Takayama and share our culture and learn from your culture in Takayama. I think that would be a fantastic experience for everybody. So, maybe we'll be able to plan something like that. And of course, artists in Takayama are always invited to come to Denver. When there is not a pandemic restricting travel, we try to have regular trips, both student trips and adult trips. The Denver Takayama Sister City Committee, where we take a delegation of people to Japan, usually first to Tokyo and then on to Takayama, and then from there, maybe to Kyoto or Hiroshima or some other places. Last year, obviously, that was canceled. And this year, we were hoping to be able to go in November. And I don't think that's going to happen just because of the nature of the pandemic. And although vaccines are becoming available in Japan, and we've been increasing our vaccines here in the United States, and the numbers are going down, I'm not so sure that Japan will be comfortable with inviting Americans across the Pacific. So maybe in 2022 we can do a trip like that.
And Yoshimoto-san, I had a question for you. Do you have many apprentices who are learning the craft of kirie? Because you have, 50 years of experience and you have your gallery there. Do you have many next generation apprentices? It's such a beautiful art. And do you have apprentices in Japan that you mentor?
So I actually do not have an apprentice or a successor. My son actually works for the City of Takayama. When you look at the kirie, even in Japan, my style I think is quite unique. So whenever people view my kirie, they can immediately tell that it's made by Yoshimoto. But there are many painters, for example, or other artists in Takayama. And I'm not trying to talk solely about Takayama, but I very much think that they would be able to continue to showcase Japanese culture through many other arts.
Thank you. Oh, please.
私の切り絵っていうか、私のことにこだわらず
So I hope that this really the discussion goes beyond just me, and I really hope that young artists in Takayama will be able to hold exhibits in Denver, just like I was fortunate enough to do 7 years ago. And I also hope that artists in Denver are also able to hold exhibits in Takayama. I really also hope that artists can collaborate between the two cities. So I think there are many opportunities that we can explore.
Yeah, I think that would be ideal.
ありがとうございます。そうなれば本当に理想的だと思います。
Thank you. ありがとうございます。So now, I actually have a few videos that I promised to share. I have a video from the mayor of Takayama, a video from the Consul General of Japan in Colorado, and then we also have a video from the chairman of Takayama Sister Cities in.
Hello, fellow friend. I'm Kunishima Michihiro, Mayor of Takayama. I would like to send greetings from Takayama on this very special occasion. Because of COVID-19 that is still spreading in the world, unfortunately, we are not able to organize the Takumi exhibition as we have originally planned. However, in this difficult situation, it is our pleasure to organize a virtual symposium and exhibition utilizing the new communication technology. So first of all, I would like to express my sincere thanks to artists and craftspersons of Takayama, and our Denver friends, including Consul General Takeuchi, and everybody who has been involved and showed their eagerness in organizing this wonderful project. In this Takumi exhibition, we are proud to introduce 6 artists and craftspersons who are important pillars of creating art, traditional crafts, wooden products, and movie work in Takayama. I hope this exhibition would lead to the future effort to introduce Hida Takayama's excellent art and craft to the people of not only Denver, but also entire America, so that Hida Takayama products will be appreciated in their everyday life. In addition, I would like to point out that this type of exchange program is the very first attempt in the 60 years story of the change program between Denver and Takayama. I'm confident that it will be the cornerstone of our new way of future exchange between our two cities. In closing, I sincerely wish that this pandemic will be over and everything will get back to normal soon so that citizens of both cities can again their healthy, safe, and active life again. Thank you all again for your effort, and I'm sure Takumi exhibition will end with great success. Thank you.
Takayama.
Hello everyone, I'm Midori Takeuchi, Consul General of Japan in Denver. Welcome to Discover Takumi, the arts and crafts of Hida Takayama. Takayama, a sister city of Denver for 60 years, is in a mountain area and well known for its beautifully preserved downtown with 400 years of history. It is also famous for its traditional spring and fall festivals, drawing more than 20 gorgeous floats, maintained and operated by local neighborhoods. Decorated with magnificent wood carvings, lacquerware, paintings, lanterns, some even with mechanical dolls. Please enjoy the artful wood carvings, lacquerware, pottery, lights, kirie paper cutting, and photos by artists living in the city with its amazing history. I hope this exhibit and seminar will further strengthen mutual understanding and friendly relations between Japan and the US. I thank all who have contributed to make this project
various opinions and help us with future exchanges in Takayama, Denver, centered on gear. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you so much to Mayor Kunishima, Consul General Takeuchi, and Chairman Hirakawa for those wonderful remarks. Well, I just have I have a final question for everybody, and maybe if each person could share what they have going on in 2021 this year. For example, what is something positive that's happening for you, and what upcoming projects do you have and that we can look forward to? Yoshimoto-san, would you like to start?
はい、現在、昨年からコロナで大変な状況が続
The COVID-19 situation has been ongoing since last year, but I am really thankful that we are able to have this online exhibit and virtual exchange with everyone in Denver. And I really would like to I really hope that this becomes an opportunity for Denver and Takayama to become the respective entrance to the rest of the country. So Takayama becomes an entrance for those in the United States to explore the rest of Japan, and vice versa. Denver will become an entrance for Japanese people to explore the rest of the United States. And I really hope that that will lead to further cultural exchange. In terms of my own goals, I'm an old man now, so I will continue to review my own artwork and see if there are any points for improvement.
ありがとうございます。渋草さん and Toda san, would you like to share?
Okay, じゃあ僕から。すみません。まず最初に僕がコーディネーター。
Thank you for this opportunity. So I served as a coordinator for this exchange. So I'd like to mention something that I was trying to be mindful about. So it's really centered around those who are trying to express traditional arts within the current sensibilities, contemporary sensibilities. And I also tried to intentionally choose artists that also had another factor, and it really depends on the artist, but other factors of consideration that they were trying to express in their own art. I feel that tradition is really the result of followers or people needing something, and then people who provide those needs. So those needs matched for a very long time, and I think a tradition is a result of that. And so I think with COVID, the world really changed in terms of how the world works and how we as humans exist and live in the world every day. So I think that a new type of knowledge is needed. And so in terms of our goals for 2021 and beyond, we want to incorporate new factors, new connections with new people, and really look into combining all of those, like finding crossovers between all of those, and then create our own new tradition. And in terms of our artwork, my younger brother will talk about that later on, but I just want to mention that for me, I collaborated with Nadia Studio, which is part of the exhibit, and created a video for the city of Takayama. And I think that will be launched very soon. So if you could please try to check it out by visiting the City of Takayama YouTube sites, that would be really wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah. 作品、新しいことや作品、プロジェクトについてなんですけど。
So in terms of new projects and new artwork, I wanted to touch upon the basketball shoes that you saw earlier with Michael Jordan. And that's really a synthesis between street culture and traditional crafts of Japan. I wanted to touch upon the basketball shoes that you saw earlier with Michael Jordan. And that's really a synthesis between street culture and traditional crafts of Japan. And the way I put on the glaze is the same way as we put on the glaze for tea bowls. And in terms of the tattooed series that I've been doing, it's really a combination of Japanese culture, different types of culture, and the traditional crafts that we do. And so that's something that I try to be mindful of, combining my own traditional crafts that is in my background, as well as different types of culture that resides in Japan. And as for the reason why I create this artwork, I feel that art is a tool of communication. So in order to communicate with many more people in the future, in order to communicate with many more people than in the past, I've been doing performances lately. So what that means is I bring a minimal amount of tools, I go out into the field, and then I create clay. And then I use local plants to create a flower arrangement or ikebana sculpture. So that was a wonderful way to connect with many people in a single moment. But because of COVID-19, that's become more difficult in recent months. So I hope that once the situation has calmed down, I hope to visit Denver and do that performance.
Please do. Yes, please do.
ぜひお願いします。ありがとうございます。
以上です。
That's all. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Kakishita-san, would you like to share?
Yeah. ね、2021年は、コロナも
So in terms of COVID-19, it's going to continue throughout 2021 possibly, and mobility is limited. At the same time, there are two projects that we are looking forward to, and one will be, we are planning to hold one in Takayama in October, and it'll be themed around enjoying light.
でもう一つは、毎年
And the second project is, so every year we collaborate with different regions, different traditional crafts around Japan. And this year we are trying to collaborate with Arita ware in Kyushu. And so that will result in a new type of lighting. And we also collaborate with Naughty Studio. So they actually made a video for us. So if you could please also check it out on YouTube, that's wonderful. And I really hope this opportunity leads to more collaboration, including Toda-san and Casey. So I look forward to that. Thank you very much.
ごめんなさい、1個忘れた。吉本さんとは以前コラボしてたので、照明器具で。はい。
And just to add, the reason I didn't mention Yoshimoto-san is because we have collaborated in the past. So just to let you know.
そうです。
Thank you.
Right. And then Casey, did you want to share anything that you're doing this year as well in 2021?
Thank you again, Courtney, for inviting me to be a part of this panel. I've enjoyed it very much. And as far as my work for this year, things have changed quite a bit with public art and opportunities with murals and large-scale work, as far as a lot of the opportunities that I've had over the past 3 or 4 years that I've produced a lot of the large-scale work that I've done. I'm trying to focus a bit more on studio work and I guess making those murals and larger work as intentional as possible and impactful as possible. I will be doing one in May, which actually is going to coincide with Pacific Asian Heritage Month. And so that's something I will be talking to you about how we can sort of collaborate on that potentially. And other than that, in the coming months, I filmed a documentary with a videographer friend of mine that premiered last September, but because of COVID, we didn't really get a chance to premiere the film. And so now that is going to be featured in the Denver Film Festival that will be next month. And that will be virtually as well, but there's a part 1 and part 2 of that documentary that really focuses on my practice and my process. So you're free to check that out. It's called Mastery Part 1 and Part 2 that will be a part of the Denver Film Festival. And other than that, I'm excited about our conversation about the collaboration and building this bridge with Takayama and the level of craftsmanship that is there in Takayama. I really had no idea before this conversation, and I'm honored to connect with all of you and inspired by your amount of dedication to your craft. And I'm very inspired, so thank you for that.
I do want to just thank you for putting this on, you and Tim. And I want to just mention that the Denver Takayama Sister City Committee, we really have taken advantage during the COVID pandemic of this technology. So as Osamu-san, Hirakawa-san mentioned earlier, the 60th anniversary event was broadcast live between the two cities, and we had their administration talking to people from the city of Denver, and it was a very nice event. And then we had a Bunka no Hi, which is the Culture Day event in November that we usually hold live here in Denver. But this time we had it virtual with people in Takayama, and it was a wonderful event. It really showed the power of this technology. We had a streaming, pre-recorded video with streaming live narration of a walking tour of Old Town Takayama, and also a cooking demonstration with Hida beef, and it was wonderful. And I think that technology will be with us, even after the pandemic. We'll be finding ways to use technology. Next week on Wednesday in Denver, Thursday morning in Takayama, we're going to have a short presentation from Tochie Elementary School, Shogakko, and they're going to tell us about where they live and the onsen that they have in their area. And it's just a great way for even children to connect with us here in Denver.
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that, Gil, because I had meant to ask you about that, actually. So, yeah, that's wonderful. I think this is, unfortunately, we can't be together, and everybody can't see the exhibit in person, but I guess one blessing is the ability to have this technology so we can be speaking together while it's morning for you in Japan and Takayama, and it's evening here. It's about 9:30 p.m. here, so it's really wonderful that we're able to connect on this level. And Gil, I'm really excited to hear about the children's school.
We also had a high school and a middle school give presentations last month. So it's been fun, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I would have had that opportunity when I was younger. Sorry, Shiori, go ahead.
残念ながらこの対面での交流ですとか、また対面で展示をご覧いただくことが難しい状況ではあるんですけれども、テクノロジーのおかげでこうやって時差にもかかわらず交流できることが大変嬉しく思いますと。で、小学校のお話も聞けて嬉しかったですということなんですけども、ギルさんの方から先月にもその高校や中学校のこういった似たようなプレゼンというのを行ってもらいましたので、非常に楽しいです。
And Ron, did you have any closing words that you wanted to share?
Going back to your question about 2021, last year I joined the Board of Trustees of the Denver Botanic Garden. And the Botanic Garden here has a Japanese garden, a tree house, a bonsai pavilion, but it also has a new building with art galleries. And I am on a committee that will be developing exhibitions for those art galleries and also for installations and artwork out in the garden, outdoors in the garden itself. And these will be connected with botanic things, and imagery and materials and focus of the artist.
That's wonderful, Ron. I'm very excited to hear that. And I know also there's a long history of bonsai artistry at the Botanic Gardens for generations of Japanese in Colorado. So I'll look forward to seeing those exhibits, and hopefully sooner than later. And I think Gil had one more thing he wanted to add.
Yes, I apologize. I wanted to mention that the Denver Takayama Sister City Committee, we enjoyed that exchange with Takayama for the Bunka no Hi so much, our Culture Day, that we're going to do a Bunka no Hi Colorado Culture Day in June or sometime this summer, where we will stream Colorado sites, Denver area sites, and Colorado food specialties, Rocky Mountain oysters maybe, and, and introduce our friends in Takayama to what we're about in Denver. We're really looking forward to that. We're planning that now.
Well, I will definitely look forward to that as well. Thank you, Gil, for sharing that. And also just a quick plug for Gil. He is working on a book about Japanese, well, you can speak to it probably, Gil, but Japanese food in America. And I'm really looking forward to that being published also.
Thank you. It's called Tabemashou, Let's Eat. And it's the history of Japanese food in America and how it's different or how it's changed, and how sushi used to be something very strange and exotic for Americans, but now it's everywhere. Not always very good, but it's everywhere. So, and ramen is now very, very popular and hip, but not always very good. But it's the history of how that culture, traditional culture of Japan, came to the U.S. and slowly became accepted. You know, after World War II, the only things that people knew in America of Japanese food were teriyaki, sukiyaki, and tempura. And now it's hard to find sukiyaki in a Japanese restaurant. So it's very interesting how culture, bunka, evolves.
Yes, I agree, Gil. Thank you so much. Well, I just have a few thank yous to make. I want to thank very much again to all of you, all of the artists, all of the panelists, Denver and Takayama Sister Cities, the Consul General of Japan in Colorado, the Mayor of Takayama. Thank you to the chairman. Thank you to Tim Higashide for being our museum videographer, vlog style videographer. Thank you to Matthew Ryan Durgan for being our tech support in the background. He's been doing a lot, all of the spotlighting of the videos. Thank you very much to Japan House in Los Angeles for sharing all of the information that they collected about this exhibit with us, and for sending it over here to us in Denver. Thank you to Shiori Okazaki-san for her wonderful interpreter work. Really, really impressed and definitely recommending you to many others. And thank you also to the Source for providing us with this space for us to be able to set up this exhibit and hold this session. Well, thank you very much. Very, very grateful and honored to have all of you here, and I hope that this is the start of wonderful connection that we can carry forward for many years to come.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
はい、さよなら。じゃあまた。
さよなら。じゃあまた。
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
ありがとうございます。